So a pretty quick tutorial today, and basically I have created the GSAP animation, and if you don't know how to do GSAP animation, you could check it in the 1 hour video where I explain how to do GSAP animations. At least it gets you started with doing animations. And I've created this simple animation, so if you click on it, you could see it's a bit faster, but we will see it better. So it just changes the color to be this blue color, and then it turns into this circular kind of border radius, and it also moves the text a bit above. Not a good animation, I know, but I just wanted to show you guys that we can do this. So this is the animation that we want to control with the button. So for example, why would we even use this, right? So if you check my modern menu videos or template, which is a paid one that you could get, you could see all these buttons do is that they trigger these animations. So whenever I click on it, it opens this box and does the animation which are in GSAP. And you could see all this stuff that you could get in the paid template, which is $5. Or if you want to make it yourself, I actually have a video on how to make this. I don't know why there are two. I think I accidentally duplicated it. So all these cool animations like creating menus or just creating any interactive function or any GSAP animation, you could add it with a click. So right now, to show you guys what I've done, I've basically created a GSAP timeline. So constant animation timeline. Again, if you don't understand it, you need to understand GSAP. I actually have a 1 hour video, which it is very easy to learn and GSAP. So make sure to watch that and do it. And what I'm simply doing is I'm making the box, which is our box. I've given it CSS class, anime box around here. We are just making the background change to this one, border radius change to 150. It's for 0.5 seconds and added a delay just for this video. I can remove the delay for now. And then the animate text, I'm basically making it go Y of -20. So it's making everything go 20 pixels above. And I've added stagger so that there's 0.1 difference of, there's like 0.1 difference between each of them instead of all of this text going together up. So very basic one. And again, I've added it to animate timeline, not anime, anim timeline, which basically means that it will only run this animation when the top one is finished like this. So very basic, easy to do animations. So what we now need to do is we want to create a button that would trigger this animation, right? So let me just create a button. You could create anything, doesn't have to be just this button. You could add image, you could add anything that you want. I'll just make this a button, or let's just make this square. Why not? Red color square. So when we click this button, I want to open this, and when I click this again, I want to go to the previous state, which is like yellow state like this. So to do that, we can simply just add a CSS class to this one. So I'll call it as my anim button like this. And we need to do some basic JavaScript and basic, very, very basic JavaScript. We have already created GSAP timeline, so it doesn't really matter. So what we need to do is, I'll use this online editor so that it's easy to type in here. So in our script, right? So the way we add JavaScript in our website is by using HTML tag and using the script tags like this. So let's just create a constant so that we can store this in a variable, right? So we want to say that this anime button, we want to store it in a constant, so in a box basically. So I can call it as like anime button document. So in our whole document, we want to select that thing. So query selector, which is like predefined stuff, and then .anim button like this. So what we are basically saying that this anim button, this CSS class, get that anim button from the from the document and store it in a container called anim button like this. This would allow us to add some functionalities to it. So now we want to say that when this container is clicked, which is anim button, we can add an event listener. So add event listener and then type click. So when there's an event on that button and the event is click, so whenever there's a click, we can just open a function. We don't really need to type anything, and then say when we click on this button, we want to do something inside. So this function is going to be running when we click on it. Now GSAP actually comes with like very cool feature, and that is we can actually play and pause this animation whenever we want. And if I show you what my animation timeline was, which is GSAP timeline, I can say that by default, so by default it is automatically set to play, right? But if I type, let's say, anim timeline dot pause, like this, not anything, like this. So we are basically saying that as soon as we run this code, which is constant timeline, as soon as we create the timeline, we are basically pausing it, and these are just stuff that should be happening in that animation. So let's do this, and remember it runs from top to bottom, right, the code. So if I refresh now, you could see nothing's actually happening. And if I actually turn, if I, let's say, do, instead of pause, if I type reverse around here, let's do preview. So obviously pause would not work because after pause we are doing reverse, right? It would not reverse, by the way, because we have never played it. Obviously, unless you play it, we cannot reverse it, right? So let's just do play instead of pause. Let's just see if that works. I'm not sure if that would work or not. Okay, it does not work because this play is actually running instantly. Sorry, this reverse is instantly running after play. So we can actually add some delay to it, but I'll just tell you that this is how we do it, basically by using play and reverse. So what we are going to do is on click, I want to do is get my anim timeline like this and do play. Okay, so all we simply did was we took our CSS, added it in a container so that JavaScript could like work with it. Then we said that when this container is clicked, do the play for the anim timeline. I'm just going to add it in the script at the bottom like this. You could see I've added it in the script because it's a JavaScript, and GSAP is also used in JavaScript. Let's just wait. It should not. Okay, so you see it played instantly because we have never paused it. So let's just pause it, which means that by default don't play. So it will not automatically play it. And you could see now it's not playing, but if I click on it, it plays. And when I click again, I want to do reverse, right? So what we could do is we could create another constant, which would be like anim played, something like this, and then we can set it to false. So by the way, we are creating a boolean value. Boolean is basically like true or false. Okay, so it can only have two values. It is true or false. So by default it would be false, right? Because our animation is not playing. So we can say that the anim has not been played. So we are saying the anim has not been played. The animation has not been played, which is why it's false. And we could say in here that anim played equal to true, because after playing we can say that the anim has been played. And we can create some if conditions. So I'll make it in a longer way, but I'll show you an easier way to do make the code like a bit better. So let me just type if. So we can say if our anim played, then only play this. So if this value is true, it will run this code. If it's not true, it will not run this code. So if our anim played is true, which means it is played, we can say that we want to reverse it. Okay, so we could say, because it has already been played, right? So we could say copy this and do reverse. So when we click on it, it will check if anim played is true or false. If it is false, it will reverse it. Sorry, if it is true, it will reverse it. And we could type else like this, play. Okay. But here's another thing that we need to do now. So when our anim is playing, so when our anim timeline has been played, we want to make this to be true. Why? Because our animation has been played. So remember, this is how the code will work. When you click on the button, it will check if the animation is set to true or false. Anim played is set to true or false. By default it is false because we haven't played, right? So it will check, okay, if it is false, it is false, so we don't want to reverse it. So it will skip from this and it will check else, which is like if anything about this like does not work, then do this stuff, which is then else we want to play it. And then when it is played, we can say that anim played is set to true. Now this is in the next time when we click on it, our anim played is set to true, right? Because we set it around here. Then it will check if this is true, and when we click on the next time, this would be true and it would reverse it. Then we again need to set this to false like this. Why? Because we have reversed it. We can just set it to false because it has now reversed, right? This is a longer way to do it. I'll compress the code a bit. So, but for now, let's just play with this one. Okay, when I click on it, it does this. If I click again, it's not doing anything. Why? Let's see. Okay. One important thing to tell you guys. I've set here constant, right? And the thing about constant variable is that we have to only use it for something that cannot be changed later in the in like the code. So it would not work because we have set constant to anim equal to false, and then what we are doing is we are making it true in the future. But because it's a constant variable, it would not change. So the reason why we use constant is usually for something that cannot be changed in future, for something like this, because this one would never change. So what we instead use is called let, and let basically means that whatever value you add in here can be changed. So if you, let's say, type let x equal to 5, we can now go into the code and then change it to like 6, and then in the later code we could even say like take x value and then add plus. So we can keep changing the value of x as long as we use let. But if we use constant x equal to 5, even though I do something like this, it would not work, simply because we are setting it to be constant. So remember to use let instead of false for anim played. I don't know why I use constant. Now if I click on it, it goes up, and if I click again, you could see if I click again, it goes down. Click goes up, click go down. Let me refresh and check once because it was a bit buggy. Okay, clicked once, clicked again, and you could even do it in the middle, you could see. Okay, so let me just make the code a bit easier. So what simply is happening is when our anim played is true, it will run this. If it is false, it will run this, and every time we let's say do this, then we are setting it to false, and then we are setting it to true, so that it keeps alternating. Now one easy way to do is we can actually just remove this stuff like this, both of it, and we can simply just make this anim played and type around here equal to exclamation point anim played, and exclamation is just saying like not. So if it is true, it will turn this to false, and if it is false, it will turn this to true. And just remember, when we use like JavaScript, anything that is added on the right gets added to the left value like this. So false is added to the anim played, right? Anim played. So the way it would work is that it will check if anim played is true, then it will run this. If it is not true, it will run this, and then after the code, it will just do this stuff every click like this. So this would just make it be easy. And the best part about this thing is that you could create any toggle functionality with JavaScript or CSS. So you could see, and that is simply how I actually created this menus, so that every time I click, it just does the animation and reverses it and all. So yeah, thanks for watching. Hope this video helped. I did make it a bit bigger than it should have been, but I was just trying to explain it better. So yeah, thanks for watching.